BLSA. So I will say this. When people ask, how do you feel about Harvard? How do you like Harvard? I say, the institution, but the people unmatched. And I would say part of that is that the Black law student community at Harvard is, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. We are amazing. And I'm not just saying that because obviously I want you all to come here and I want you all to be a part of the BLSA family. I'm not saying this because I was president. I'm truly saying that the Harvard admissions people, I just have to give a shout out to, because I don't know how they're able to continuously curate classes of Black people who are not monolithic. So we don't all agree. We don't all have the same opinions or belief. We don't all have the same likes. We come from all across the globe and are still able to form an authentic, beautiful, robust, and challenging community. And we kick butt on campus. Really, truly. You have editors in chiefs of law reviews and journals and people leading student practice organizations and leading clinics who are Black. It's not just that we have, one of the largest Black communities outside of an HBCU law school, but that we actually have people who are running things. It's that we don't shy away from a challenge. It's that we have come to Harvard and decided to make it a home. And it's not without challenges. I would say we have really difficult moments. People, again, just as I mentioned, we come from all different backgrounds. The people who we're also with and our peers come from all different backgrounds and different political persuasions and different biases and prejudices that they bring with them, And your Harvard Black community stands 10 toes down with you through the whole thing. I remember specific instances of feeling like I wasn't being supported in crim, and I had 3 L's and 2 L's and people were all ahead of me say, we'll come sit in class with you. And it wasn't one of those things where I thought they were just gassing me or they were just saying that, but no, truly said they would come to class, followed up with me, asked what room I was in, and just the support is unrivaled, it's unmatched, and I truly would not have enjoyed myself in another school, and I just know that. So I'll say something that surprised me about Harvard is I thought it was going to be more progressive. I know certain people are like, seriously, sis? It's like the institution that started all institutions in the law. And yeah, but I think they do a really good job of advertising themselves as people who really appreciate progressive learners and people who can have robust conversations. But that doesn't mean that the support is the way that I at least envisioned what that would look like was there. Professors didn't always discuss race in class. In fact, more often than not, there were these rules around no personal narratives, where you could not speak about your particular experience, even if it was directly relevant to a law that was being discussed in class. And part of this was, classroom management or making sure that no one was able to weaponize their narrative over someone else's. But really, it just became a tool for not speaking critically about race and not having, these really thorough conversations with people who were purported to lead the country moving forward and people who will be senators and people who will be thought leaders, but we're not having full conversations about race. And I would say, that's something that's difficult about Harvard, but it's also not unique to Harvard. I think that is what it means to be Black in predominantly white institutions. So whether that's in your undergrad or that's in your graduate school program, there aren't many Black professors and there certainly aren't Black practitioners in the law, not that many of them. So there isn't a lot of, opportunity because you're reading a case book that specifically brings up race in some way that's helpful. You're having to have that conversation. You're having to talk about the background of the case. You're talking about the defendant. You're talking about, the plaintiff. You're talking about the litigants, what they look like and how that's impacting the case. And that's really something that I felt, at least in my first year, was student driven and not professor driven. So you just have to be ready for that.
I wanted to talk a little bit about what live community and culture are like at HLS. So first, kind of the common question, is HLS a competitive school? I would say yes, it is competitive, but not in a kind of an overly harmful or toxic way. Many people in your section, everyone is coming into class very prepared. We're all trying to impress professors, vying for various campus organizations in your 2L and 3L year, like the law review, for example. However, you can still find people who are definitely willing to collaborate, form study groups with you. I found community and collaboration my first year through BLSA. 2 of my best friends at the law school who were my section mates, I met them through BLSA events, and we definitely were there to support each other through cold calls, through thinking about outlines for class. And also, many of my outlines for each of my classes came from fellow BLSA members who also gave me insight into how professors graded, into how professors kind of approach code calls, how professors approached exams, and how I could best prepare for them. So I found that to be really useful. So that's just an example of how, even though it is competitive, you can find collaboration and community through that light. Most recently, though, I found community at HLS on the law review as a 2L and 3L. So we are bonded kind of through our collective endeavor of trying to publish the top legal scholarship in the country. But it's also still a community since we spend many hours together, but also a community through us. Whether that's through like clerkship applications, many people on the law review will host panels talking through how they went through their clerkship applications and giving you the best advice on how to make your application stand out. We also have outline banks, and so people are once again more than willing to help you, especially I would say community at HLS is stronger kind of in the intergenerational aspects, where a lot of the upperclassmen, 2Ls and 3Ls are always willing to talk to 1Ls and help you through the process.
One thing I want to share a little bit about is the culture at Harvard Law School. In my opinion, the culture at Harvard Law School is definitely one where people are not necessarily competitive, but are ambitious. And as part of that ambition, I think people definitely look for their core group. And that core group can be a few friends who they study with, and they're people who have the similar styles. So they may be people who like to go to Langdale Library and study together, or people who like to go to student orgs room, which is a little bit more social and that's their vibe. Or they may be people who do neither of them and just like to share Quimby outlines together. But I think people find those people who are gonna make them better and make them achieve their goals. And then beyond the academic, that translates to social as well. People very much lean into student orgs, whether it's joining like orgs with a purpose or an activity like Defenders, or joining groups of people that are part of your affinity groups, whether it's Black Law Students Association or Armed Forces Association that I'm part of. People very much lean into that. I think one thing that I'm very excited of is, based on the communities I've been involved with, being elected student body co-president with one of my friends. And one thing that I would love to see more in the culture at Harvard Law School is a little bit more activity with people between those groups, because, you know, I may go to a BLSA event or I may go to an AFA barbecue, but really we're not really cross group events. We're not doing that as much. And that's something that I would love to see more as part of the culture. But until then, I'm just so happy to be involved with BLSA and other groups that have given me an amazing form of community. And I would want to talk a little bit more about the Black Law Students Association and what it's meant for me. We're one of those schools where we're large enough that we have a strong number of Black law students, and a good amount of those students get involved with BLSA. And one thing I've noticed that is very different from college, because I had the privilege of also going to Harvard College, is that I think people have much more diverse backgrounds in the law school. So for example, when I was in college, there were some people who didn't even realize that public school students were there. And I'm from Prince George's County. I went to Prince George's County Public Schools, a majority Black school district, the 18th largest in the country. And my experience was very different from a lot of people who went to boarding high schools. And not knocking it at all, but I think that in general, when you come to Harvard Law School and when you are within the Black community, you have people who went to HBCUs, you have people who went to PWIs, you have people that went to Ivy Leagues, have people who went to like top schools in the South, whether it's Duke or Vanderbilt or whatever. And I think because of that, we have a really good diversity of perspective in the school in general, but especially in BLSA, because we're not one of those schools that has 20, 30 BLSA members. We have a good amount. And because of that, I think we're very good at checking each other, maybe too good. Like there will be times where BLSA members are on different sides of an issue, but I appreciate that because we're showing that Black people are not a monolith. And I think Harvard Law School is probably the best example of that in the world, because not only are we not a monolith, we're very opinionated and we're very vocal about our opinions that make it very clear that we're not a monolith. And so I think the culture is very much one where people support each other. As I mentioned in another video or a video that may come after this, I was elected student body co-president. And I think a big part of that was having support from a lot of people in the Black Law Students Association. And that's not just because of what I look like, but because a lot of the issues I care about, like professors of color, having more professors of color, are related to BLSA. And so it's definitely a situation where a lot of us have similar things that are important to us and we have each other's back. But if there are other topics where we feel differently about, BLSA will have its members on different sides, and I appreciate having both the support of the community, but also the community to check me if they have a different perspective. And I think that's really the strongest thing to consider when thinking about the BLSA community at HLS.